Cracker Barrel just changed their logo, and the internet has ravaged the company for abandoning their iconic logo that had been there for decades. People from all walks of life, from President Trump to Democrats themselves, young and old, everyone can agree that this rebrand is straight up trash. But these type of rebrands don't seem to be a one-off. They're a part of a greater trend where countless companies are throwing away iconic legacies for more sterile and lifeless brands. If you're new here, hi, my name's Leo. Welcome to Informed Insights. I feel like I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this type of topic. I, after all, got my bachelor's degree in advertising. You know, like Mad Men. Yeah, I got that pricey MBA as well. So what I want to focus on this video is just why companies seem to be completely missing the mark and changing their brand when no one's even asking for it. What makes companies like Cracker Barrel just do dumb things, lack for a better phrase? And we're going to tackle that question that everyone on the internet has. Why the heck did they do this? And ultimately, why have logos become so boring, so sterile, and so lifeless? During post-World War II America, we saw the emergence of so many brands, and advertising, as a result, became a booming industry. And again, think the show Mad Men. Logos took hours, if not weeks, to develop. Iconic logos weren't just made by fancy computer software. They were thought out pen to paper. There weren't too many examples to even look at. Branding and logo design was an art form. One of the world's greatest logo designers, Paul Rand, he developed slick and modern logos with a lot of personality. Each one of his logos showcased the company's goals, mission, and uniqueness. From logos like IBM, UPS, and ABC, just to name a few, his logos were nothing like many of the soulless logos that we've become so used to seeing. But somewhere along the way, that craftsmanship got lost. As computers became the default tool and corporations grew larger and global, logo design shifted from artists and visionaries to committees and focus groups. What once took weeks of creative experimentation is now decided in PowerPoints and boardrooms. The result? Well, logos that aren't meant to inspire or stand out. They're meant to be safe and not offend anyone. They've been stripped down to the point where they look interchangeable, with the same flat fonts and generic shapes that could belong to any company in any industry. The shift isn't just about aesthetics, it's about values. Companies, they used to use their logo as a chance to project identity, to tell customers. Now it seems like they use logos like utility labels, optimized for app icons and digital screens, but they're essentially robbed out of their personality. Cracker Barrel isn't just an isolated case. It's part of a broader movement where legacy brands throw away decades of goodwill and story for something modern that nobody asked for. And in the process, they forget that a logo isn't just design, it's memory, emotion, and history.
Generally, most companies have their logo as just a logotype. And every once in a while, a company has a logo that's sort of a little jewel, a symbol, that can be used independently of the logotype.
Cracker Barrel's whole identity has always been built on that grandma's house charm. Cluttered shelves, checkerboards by the fireplace, fried catfish with sweet tea, and a slice of apple pie, just to cap it off. It wasn't just about food, it was a feeling. For many people, visiting Cracker Barrel was like stepping back into a simpler, cozier time. One where the outside world didn't matter just for 1 hour. That's why the old logo worked. The man leaning on the barrel just wasn't decoration. He was a part of the story. A symbol of slow Southern comfort. And when you strip all that away for the sake of sleeker, more versatile designs, you're not just modernizing the design, you're completely erasing the very nostalgia that kept people loyal in the first place. But instead of protecting that heritage, companies now seem so obsessed with flattening everything to fit the digital world. The rise of smartphones and apps has fueled the race towards sterile, hyper-legible logos that look fine on 2-inch screens, but they lose all personality in the process. Now, executives, they'll say it's about scalability, consistency across platforms. But let's be honest, nobody was struggling to recognize the Cracker Barrel logo. It was honestly one of the most iconic logos in the entire restaurant industry. The truth is that these redesigns are more about looking trendy than serving customers. And hey, if you want minimalist bowls and clean lines, you already have Kava, Sweet Green, and Shake Shack. Just go to those places. Cracker Barrel was supposed to be the alternative, and that's why people kept on going. It isn't that complicated. It isn't that hard to understand. It was a cozy escape from the outside world. What makes this trend even stranger and more confusing to me is that it rarely works. Time and time again, it happens all the time. When brands ditch their character and charm for something modern, the backlash is immediate, rightfully so. We got examples of Gap back in 2010. Tropicana also had a sort of logo redesign. They got a lot of backlash. The irony is that these companies think that they're making themselves more relatable by following all these new trends, but they just end up doing the absolute opposite. Instead of feeling unique, they feel like everyone else. Instead of being timeless, they look temporary. Instead of strengthening their brand loyalty, they risk everything, alienating the very people who carry them for decades. Cracker Barrel isn't just swapping out a logo, they're sending a signal that they rather chase digital trends than honor the trust and memories that made them so special in the first place. And when companies forget that logos are emotional anchors, not just design choices, and they learn the hard way that sterile doesn't sell. I feel like it should be marketing 101, not to anger your customers. After all, they're the reason why you're even in business in the first place. One of the major reasons why companies change their logos, at least in their eyes, is to signify change, especially when sales are starting to flatten or even decrease. Although many people may think that restaurants are super profitable for selling super inflated priced foods, most restaurants run off super small margins. We're talking like 3 to 10% of all sales actually being profits. And in the case of Cracker Barrel, they're netting sometimes as low as 4%. Over the past couple years, Cracker Barrel sales have been flat. Internally, there's been a lot of worry that Cracker Barrel needed to lure younger diners. Don't worry, Cracker Barrel, your customers are probably on the older side, but they still got a lot of years in them and they're still kicking. Don't worry about luring younger customers. It's kind of weird. And this has cost Cracker Barrel a pretty penny. Cracker Barrel has continued to invest around $700 million on store remodels as well. Cracker Barrel has also changed their menus, reducing items considerably. The confusing thing is that almost all fast casual chains are hurting right now. Unless you're like Cane's or Chili's, you aren't really doing so hot right now. And why are many restaurants struggling? Well, it's because food menu prices have skyrocketed due to the inflation storm. Customers are pulling back on spending everywhere. This is common sense. Investing almost $1 billion to completely change your brand identity. It won't magically make your prices cheaper, and it won't lure more customers. On the flip side, these massive brand overhauls likely increase the ticket price for all the food. And the irony is that Cracker Barrel isn't even alone in this struggle. Across the casual dining sector, restaurants have been squeezed hard by inflation. According to industry data, food away from home prices have gone up nearly 25% since 2019. And customers are eating less often. Chains like Olive Garden or Red Lobster have admitted the same pressures that Cracker Barrel are feeling. Higher ingredient costs, rising wages, and a customer base that's trading down to cheaper options. Even Starbucks, which is far more diversified, reported a rare sales decline in 2024. When Cracker Barrel sinks hundreds of millions of dollars into store remodels, rebrands, and new ad campaigns, it's fighting against macroeconomic headwinds that no amount of new signage can even fix. And you probably heard the news, right? Investors and shareholders, they aren't really too excited about this $700 million Cracker Barrel transformation. Their stock pretty much plunged 12 to 15% overnight. That wiped out hundreds of millions of dollars in restaurant value. And keep in mind, when restaurants lose millions of dollars worth of stock value, it's a lot harder for them to regain that stock value compared to like tech companies. But you know what? The Cracker Barrel board has doubled down on their decision to stick with the new logo and rebrand. I don't know, maybe these executives, they know more than everyone. They know more than the experts or you and I, everyone. But the outcry is loud, incredibly loud. And when you have the entire internet against you, that probably means that people are probably going to jump on that hate train. I guess for the executives, if they were to admit that the new logo was indeed trash like everyone else is saying, it's going to be a huge risk because it's probably going to create a lot of distrust with the current shareholders. But at the same time, ignoring all this outcry altogether can even have a greater long-term consequence. Like people completely skipping going to Cracker Barrel altogether, just going somewhere else. Yep, that's a huge risk. So Cracker Barrel isn't just under fire with their new logo, right? People are upset with their new remodels and their store designs. These new store designs would strip the entire unique look and feel of their old-timey stores. So if everyone hates these bland remodels, why does it seem to be happening to most restaurants today? Let's take an example of this McDonald's evolution. This was an iconic McDonald's that featured zoo animals and bright colors. It was a fun time. I remember eating in it as a kid. It was super cool. The environment was exciting and memorable. It was right outside the Dallas Zoo, which was a great spot to eat after visiting the zoo. Well, the 2010s came calling in and this store got completely remodeled and it lost all of its identity and uniqueness. Take another Dallas McDonald's, for example. This McDonald's was located right outside the Dallas Galleria, and it was on food enthusiasts' bucket list. It was basically like half a Happy Meal in a store. It was pretty interesting. Its super unique design had all the iconic McDonald's characters, and then the 2010s hit again, and they completely changed the look and they got rid of all the uniqueness. Another example that people point to is cars. They used to be sold in bright and beautiful colors. Now it seems that all cars are either black or white. But what happened? Why does it seem like everything became gray and soulless? Another big reason for the push towards simplified, modernized logos and store designs comes down to cost and efficiency. Yeah, companies have become a lot more greedy over the past 10 years. We all know that. Maintaining a unique rustic style restaurant like Cracker Barrel's old models is expensive. Hand-carved wood decor, antique props, rocking chairs. People have to basically go in every store and make sure that they have all this random stuff in place. They have to pay those people. So now they can fire those people if they do this remodel. It's pretty messed up. So analysts, they estimate that a new Cracker Barrel traditional location can cost anywhere from 2.5 to 3 million. But if you make these new, modern, boring Cracker Barrels, you're looking at around 1.5 to 2 million dollars. So considerably a lot less money. So if Cracker Barrel wants to open a bunch of new restaurants, over a dozen of them, you're looking at tens of millions of dollars in savings if they go with the boring look. On top of that, the newer minimalist designs, they make it easier to fit in more urban centers where space is limited and labor is a lot pricier. In other words, the quirky character-driven store design is treated as an unnecessary luxury, and it's replaced with something that's efficient but bland. But cost isn't the only factor. It's also about companies wanting to chase new customers. In the eyes of executives, the most coveted customer isn't the traditional American family of four stopping for dinner on a road trip or stopping after soccer practice or a volleyball game. No, it's the urban professional, young, college-educated, tech-savvy, often with a lot of disposable income. Research now shows that households led by an urban professional, they spend around 20 to 30% more annually on dining and lifestyle services, compared to more suburban middle-class families, even if the latter makes up the larger share of the US population. That's why companies view these customers like unicorns, rare, valuable, and worth reshaping the entire brand to attract. The tragedy is that in choosing to chase the tech bro with AirPods and a laptop in hand, they're alienating the hard-working middle-class family that's actually built their brand loyalty over decades. Instead of doubling down on authenticity, companies now sacrifice it for a standardized, safe, aesthetic design to appeal to a demographic that may never even step foot inside their stores, if not too often. Another reason why so many brands have embraced the bland aesthetic is globalization. Restaurants and retailers no longer just want to think about appealing to local American families. They think about how their brand will be perceived in other places like Saudi Arabia, for example, or even Dubai. The goal becomes creating a very safe, neutral, standardized look that can be copied anywhere without offending anyone. A quirky Southern-style Cracker Barrel full of rocking chairs and Americana, yeah, it might charm a Tennessee family, but it could also alienate wealthy business travelers from Asia or the Middle East. A lot of companies today fear that leaning too hard into local culture, religion, or even color schemes could come across as a political, outdated, or even offensive to many other markets. This is one of the reasons why logos have lost so much personality. And interiors, stores, restaurants, they often feel like generic glass boxes. They're designed to be universally inoffensive, rather than reflective of the true American culture that actually brought that brand to existence. In chasing the global elite and foreign investors, many brands have completely abandoned the character that once connected them to the American middle-class family. So Cracker Barrel, it isn't just a one-off. Little by little, culture seems to be slowly fading away. Which was once an American charm is slowly becoming a standardized corporate cafeteria. But it doesn't have to be this way. The unified outrage and consensus in Cracker Barrel, it leads me to believe that there is a future where our dollars are used to prevent the erosion of culture. Nostalgia, it shouldn't be a negative thing. It should be a feeling that is protected. Brands keep flattening their own identities. They're gonna learn what Cracker Barrel just learned, that nostalgia isn't just for decoration, it's the glue that holds loyalty together. When you erase it, you erase the bond that you built with your customers. And when that happens, no logo redesign in the world can save you. If you don't like all these logo redesigns and all these changes from all these companies, you can let those corporations know that we as consumers have a voice, and our dollars are that voice. Well guys, let me know what you think about this entire Cracker Barrel fiasco. There's a lot to unpack there. Let me know in the comment sections your thoughts on this topic. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to share this video out to everyone you know. It really helps us out and it shines a spotlight on issues like this. And like always, we'll be back with another video. Stay informed out there.